All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll get this meeting started with a call to order and establishment of quorum for the MGM Empire City Community Advisory Committee organizational meeting. Welcome. Upon the receipt of a completed application in response to the request for applications issued pursuant to New York Racing Pari-Mutual Wagering and Breeding Law, Title 2A, the Commission will establish a Community Advisory Committee, or CAC, for each application received based upon the physical location of the proposed gaming facility. Accordingly, having received a completed application for a project at 810 Yonkers Avenue in Yonkers, the Commission has established a CAC for the applicant MGM Empire City. By statute, each CAC is to consist of appointees made by the governor, the mayor, state senator, assembly member who represents the district where the proposed facility is to be located, and the county executive of where the facility is proposed to be located. Members of this CAC have been appointed by Governor Kathy Hochul, New York State Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins, New York State Assembly Member Nader Sayegh, Westchester County Executive Kenneth Jenkins, and Yonkers Mayor Mike Spano. Pursuant to New York General Construction Law, Section 41, a quorum shall be established by the presence of 4 members. I will now call roll. I'll give you a second, Maria.
That's okay. Sorry, I didn't think about the parking.
Maria Fernandez, appointed by Governor Kathy Hochul. Larry Wilson, appointed by Senator Stewart-Cousins. Frank Jarris, Assemblymember Sayegh. Joe Apostella, appointed by County Executive Jenkins. And James Kavanaugh, appointed by Mayor Spano. The presence of a quorum of qualified members is present, so enabling the transaction of business. Materials to be discussed at today's meeting have been provided to all members, including Resolution 2501 regarding public access to Community Advisory Committee meetings with the proposed rule text, Resolution 2502, administration of the Freedom of Information Law by a Community Advisory Committee with proposed rule text, a copy of brief introduction and task overview presentation, a proposed template schedule with a template form to request changes to an application and conduct a final vote, and a copy of Racing Law, Section 1321D, which details CACs. So the appointment of a Community Advisory Committee chair. So per New York Racing Pari-Mutual Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 1321D3E7, each CAC at its first meeting shall elect a chair by majority vote. So at this time, I'd like to facilitate the process by opening nominations to serve as chair.
I would like to nominate Jim Kavanaugh.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Motion be made to close nominations?
So moved.
And all in favor of Jim Kavanaugh to serve as chair of the MGM Empire City Community Advisory Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes, thanks.
So to speak.
So what we have now is a brief overview of the CAC process. We do have slides, but I'll go through this first and do the slides last. So I'll introduce myself and NISTEC first, some brief overview. So my name is Narain Siddiqui. I'm a consultant with NISTEC, the entity selected following a public bid to serve as the CAC consultant for the Gaming Commission. Founded over a quarter century ago, NISTEC is a not-for-profit consulting company with more than 350 full-time employees operating at multiple locations throughout New York State. We have extensive experience in task force and steering committee coordination, stakeholder engagement, public meeting facilitation, adherence with New York's open meetings law, and large-scale event planning. So I want to start by advising, and I know you all know this, that each CAC has been provided a copy of the completed application submitted by MGM Empire City in response to the RFA. And if anyone needs assistance, let me know and we can get that material over to you. As a reminder, again, I know you're all aware, the application materials contain personally identifiable information and trade secrets, so which, if disclosed, would cause substantial injury to the competitive position of the submitting entity. Each CAC member should exercise care to prevent inappropriate or unauthorized disclosure of the information. And the redacted application is posted on the Gaming Facility Location Board's website for public perusal. All right, moving on to best practices resolution consideration. So it's my understanding that the New York State Committee on Open Government has created 2 documents to guide best practices to govern for public access to meetings and handling of freedom of information requests. So before us are best practices documents adapted from the Open Meetings Law Model Rules for public bodies and the Freedom of Information Law Model Rules for agencies. All members of this CAC have been provided draft documents in advance. I believe the Committee on Open Government documents are relatively clear, straightforward, and should be considered as circulated. So taking them individually now, Open Meetings Law. May I have a motion to adopt Open Meetings Law Model Rules for public bodies as adapted for the MGM Empire City Community Advisory Committee?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of adopting Open Meetings Law
Aye.
Model Rules?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. May I have a motion to adopt Freedom of Information Law Model Rules for agencies as adapted for MGM Empire City Community Advisory Committee?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Schedule and timeline. So another matter for today's meeting is to discuss dates, durations, locations for an applicant presentation and public hearings. Practically, we need to establish how we would like the presentation to be given and how to receive public comments at the hearings. In 2014, the Gaming Facility Location Board issued a protocol for the conduct of applicants to present. It's not perfectly applicable, but it does contain a few items that we should consider adapting for our use. Protocol included things like presentation length, the use of equipment, visual aids, decorum of applicants, and public attendees. In 2014, the Gaming Facility Location Board also issued a protocol for the conduct of public comment events. Included language regarding participation, reservations, length, equipment, other visual aids, written submissions, decorum. We can discuss logistics offline a bit, but I'd also like to kind of prepare, and we'll circulate and document all of this afterwards, so we can continue that afterwards. We can run through the slides now. Any questions before I get into this? All right. So this presentation, their slides are also, you have in front of you in hard copies in case you don't want to look at the screen, but they'll eventually be posted online too. So this is a broad overview of the CAC process, all very high-level information. General background. So in the New York State Constitution was amended in 2012 to allow up to 7 commercial casinos in the state. 4 of the 7 were established in upstate in 2014 and 15 following a competitive bid process similar to what we're engaged in right now. In 2022, the legislature established a citing process for up to 3 casino licenses, and they specifically created a gaming facility location board to issue an RFA, evaluate the applications, and select up to 3 projects for potential licensure. The board issued this request in 2023, and it currently has 4 members. Vicki Bean is the chair, Terrell Brown, Marion Phillips III, Greg Reimers, and there is 1 vacancy. The statute, I will not read through this or any of the slides verbatim, I promise, but the law requires a creation of a project-specific community advisory committee to determine whether the application they're tasked with reviewing will advance to the board for consideration. and each committee is made up of appointees of the elected officials representing that proposed project's physical location. So how did we all end up here is what we're all asking, because on June 27th, they received 8 applications. So they formed 8 CACs. We're here because you've all been appointed by an appointing authority to serve on the committee reviewing the application for MGM Empire City, located at 810 Yonkers Ave. Again, committee members have received the application, and we will plan on having the applicant present at a later date and time to be scheduled. Milestones about where we are in this process. So each committee has until September 30th to complete its work. The applications that are approved by their committee will then be evaluated by the board by statutory criteria, and the board expects to announce its selections by December 1st, followed by license consideration by the end of the year. So we're moving along. Again, by statute, the committee is required to review the application, hold no less than 2 public hearings to receive public comment, and then by September 30th, each committee should vote with a 2/3 majority whether the application should be advanced to the gaming facility location board. And then a failure to hold this vote by the 30th will be deemed a rejection. Duties. Each committee, vote for chair, review the application, attend the hearings and the meetings, review public comments, vote before September 30th, operate in accordance with open meetings law. And for the MGM application to advance to the board, 4 committee members must vote in the affirmative. Application changes. A committee may solicit changes to the application, but there are some limitations for what changes can be considered by the board. Namely, in discussions with this committee, the bidder can make a promise, commitment, or obligation, and then to be considered, it has to be put into writing. Definitive, not incumbent on any future state, local discretionary action, and unconditioned. Likewise, the committee can request the applicant to change or modify the application. Again, has to be reduced to writing and filed by the deadline. To advance the application, the committee has to notify the Gaming Facility Location Board of an unconditional affirmative vote by the said deadline, as well as include all materials that are related to the decision. And again, 4 affirmative votes. In case it wasn't stated enough at this point, it is 4 votes to advance the application. All right, I will preface the slide, suggested schedule, but a proposed suggested schedule for this committee to consider 2 public hearings as required by statute. Again, this is not definitive. A meeting and hearing could happen on the same day, depending on how you want to schedule it. Each committee, again, can set their own schedule. You're an independent body, but one suggestion is to have this meeting, 2 public hearings, final meeting vote. Again, working with everyone's schedules over the summer, we'll figure out how to meet the deadline. Public comments, a very important part of this process. So we are holding at least 2 public hearings, but we also have multiple avenues for people to submit comment. Email address is up there, aptly, MGM Empire City, public comment at nicetech.com. And there's also an address for mailing in written comments as well.
Marian, is all of this in this booklet here?
Yes, don't worry. Does not need to be memorized, don't worry. Again, I know we've talked about this at length, but just to restate it for the record, As a member of the committee, you are tasked with reviewing the complete application, which is why you've been provided both the redacted and unredacted versions. The unredacted materials do contain personally identifiable information, trade secrets, which, again, if disclosed, could cause substantial injury to the competitive position of the submitting entity. So each CAC member, please exercise care to prevent any inappropriate, unplanned, unauthorized disclosure of any of the proprietary or sensitive information. Open meetings law and logistics. So my colleagues and I at NISTEC are providing the logistical assistance to each CAC, including working with meeting venues, locations, necessary technology, materials, support staff. And as required by this law, all meetings and all hearings will be open to the public, media, accessible, webcast, and recorded. Event locations, you all have been very helpful in this regard. Committee members are encouraged to work with us to recommend appropriate meeting spaces, conducive to public hearings, convenient for everyone, and venues. You can also work with your appointing authorities to share connections and contacts that way. Again, difference between meetings and hearings. So a meeting is what we're doing now. Discuss scheduling, possibly schedule a later meeting to hear a presentation from the applicant. Hearings, we have to hold at least 2. That's solely really to receive public comment. And then the final vote meeting will be conducted somewhat, in a manner like this. Forward to reiterate what I just said. Meetings, again, what we're doing right now, and hearings. One thing we do want to highlight for the hearings is that they are typically not venues for members of the public to ask questions of the committee members or vice versa. So they're really just intended to hear and accept comment on the proposal. That being said, if there's any variations that we want to discuss, we can, it's again independent body. We can work with what you think the community would like to do and how you'd like to hold those hearings. Language access. We can also talk about specifics offline, but we will have ASL at all of the hearings, and we'll talk to each of you about what languages you'd like to request for notices to be made public and posted online. And communication with the project representatives. So a reminder to please be mindful of public officers' law obligations, refrain from contact with the applicant, anyone on their behalf, except again in the context of a public meeting or through the public comment process. The limitation doesn't obviously apply to any official business interaction between a member, undertaking normal duties. So you're all familiar with this. Ethics, please avail yourselves of all the applicable ethics laws, rules, and guidelines. COLIG, Committee on Ethics and Lobbying in Government, is one resource. Additional laws and resources are listed here. Okay, we're about halfway through these slides. I'm just kidding. We're done. I wanted to.
No, I really like it.
That's good. We got through it pretty fast.
She said to you more than
Yeah. You try. All right. So that is it for today. But any questions before we officially adjourn?
I have a few
Yes.
brief
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
But, and you may not have the answers, but we can bound it about and see maybe we can find out the answers. Is there a side, now we're going to work as an independent body, and those of us who've served on many of these boards and committees understand how they work. Is there any required limitation on the public speakers? For instance, at many public hearings, people are given 2 minutes or 3 minutes to afford everyone to have an opportunity to contribute. Is that something we can determined? as a
There's,
body?
yes, there's nothing required. I believe the commission will be putting out some suggested guidance. Typically around 3 minutes
Right.
is typical, but it's really 2 to 4 minutes. Again, we have to think about hearing length, what you think the most convenient would be, and all that. Yeah.
The city boards, zoning board, planning board, they use 3 minutes.
Yeah.
If someone goes a
Makes
little bit
sense.
over,
Right.
give it a little leeway, but if
Little
someone's
judgment.
still
Right.
talking after, 5, 6, 7 minutes, you kind of say, hey, the time's up, so.
We talked about having a timer that holds everyone.
Yes.
Makes
Yeah.
sense, so that it's fair and balanced
Yeah,
for
so I
everybody.
think 3 minutes probably
Yeah.
is a good overall guideline, yeah.
And to that point, is there any sort of, from a statute standpoint, requirement or parameter for when the public participation component of the project needs to end within the confines of our schedule?
So the requirement on the committee is that we have to have at least 2 public hearings, and then the committee also has to submit their vote by the 30th. So any flexibility within that really lies that public comment can continue to be received via email, mail, technically until the 30th, but there is messaging that says they should take care to provide it as early as possible to give you all time to ingest it and receive
That was
it.
my thought process.
Yeah.
We want to have the opportunity
Right.
to review and evaluate all the comments before September 30th. So that's what I was wondering around about
Yeah.
the timing as it relates to that. And just one other issue, we talked about, again, statutory requirements, boards and directors. Most of the boards and directors that I participate in have some form of indemnification
Mhm.
because anyone can sue anyone for any reason, right? So is there any indemnification of the board members here if we were to be individually
You mean like officers and directors insurance?
correct?
I'm not aware.
We can take that back. to
Yeah,
the
that
commission.
that has
Yeah.
not come up yet.
It's not
Yeah.
it's not unimportant.
Yeah,
It's important
Definitely, yeah.
because that could happen.
Yep.
And then we'd be
Mhm.
looking at each other. We'd be foolish not to know in advance how that would materialize because we have a substantive role in this process, right?
Absolutely, so we'll make
Yeah.
sure to get.
Yeah.
That's
Hasn't
fine.
come up yet, but that's a good, yeah, we'll take it back and we'll, probably post
So
it.
then, is that it?
I'm
Yeah.
done.
So then, my question would be, and I don't know if we're going to discuss it now or it's appropriate for offline,
Mhm.
is the next step would be to get a presentation from MGM.
Mhm.
I think the timing on that is important. And the question is, it's been raised, do we want to combine MGM's presentation with a public hearing? There's pros and cons to that. But presumably, if the board members have questions, or they think you'll have questions after the presentation, let's say MGM gives like a 45-minute presentation, if the board members have questions, that could run an hour, 2 hours. If you're going to have a public hearing after that, you are in for a very long meeting.
Yes.
It's a long day.
So, yeah, so maybe it's best to have the MGM presentation and then the public hearings,
I think so.
or else it's a very long day.
I'd agree.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So then the next thing is to figure out, maybe you can coordinate the calendar,
Yeah,
but MGM sounds like they want to come in as soon as possible, and probably the best thing is to get it in early August.
yeah, and we can look at calendars offline and kind of crisscross all those dates that way.
I have a question also, if you're finished.
Yeah.
What about the venues for these hearings, for the public hearing? And in your instructions, there was information about technology that, I guess there are parameters that you have to follow for the venues.
Mhm.
Could you explain a little bit more? I mean, are they, hard and fast, or are they sort of,
It's not hard and fast. Yeah, I think so. The committee members are supposed to help and suggest with venue locations and placement, what would be the most convenient for your communities, ideally close to the proposed project site. In terms of technology, we will facilitate whatever is needed in terms of recording, webcasting. If we do want to have people be able to attend public hearings virtually and participate is also something we are troubleshooting on our end. But in terms of other parameters, that's really all that there is. We can work with whatever the committee thinks is the best time and place to hold them. Yeah.
So Larry, besides being a member of this committee, you're the head of a community association that's had a strong interest in this application. So, I mean, is there something you want to suggest?
I've had discussions with folks that could provide a venue for St. Barnabas was one. We've had many meetings there. They have an auditorium at, in the high school auditorium, that we could probably use.
St. Barnabas is,
McLean Avenue.
is it technically in the Bronx or in Yonkers?
Well, the actual property line runs through the parish.
So it has to be like one side of the building.
And I believe that
You have to sit in the Yonkers half day.
I believe that the Yonkers, the city of Yonkers, they've been meetings there before. And when the Roonies asked for the VLTs, there was a community meeting there. And of course, Empire City's been there also.
I mean, the thing we've got to be careful about is the statute. I mean, it's one thing for Empire City or the city to have an informal meeting. I want to be careful if in fact we have a hearing and it's not strictly within the city limits, is that going to be a problem? There are other things, there are other locations we could think about,
Well, that's a yes or no answer. So we need to find out the statute that created this scenario. Can we hold meetings
Outside of
technically? Because you don't want to get caught in the technicalities.
But there is no confirmation that I know of that the auditorium, the high school auditorium, is in the Bronx. You tell me. I don't
want to be caught up in that debate.
What you don't want is down the road, someone who didn't like the process or came up on the short end, sends through the lawsuit and says, aha, I got you guys on a technicality.
That's right.
What about the Spreckman Center?
Yeah, again, the Spreckman Center is under, city control. I've spoken with the councilman. I believe that he could provide, the venue for.
So what you're leading to is you'd like one of the hearings to be in your neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay, I had a feeling.
It is in the surrounding.
Yeah, I had a feeling that's what you would want. So why don't we work toward that? I mean, unless the committee.
Agreed.
There's also Lincoln High School too, maybe?
Yeah, I think you got to be careful. Remember when you're having these hearings in the middle of August. So they've got to be fully air conditioned, right? They have to be large enough from a capacity standpoint to make people feel welcome. You don't want to, and that'll be another point of contention. You created a venue that's so small that we couldn't get all of our people in. So it has to be fully air conditioned, not maybe it's working today or maybe it's working tomorrow, but fully air conditioned and have the capacity for a significant amount of the community to come out.
The other final question I would have is, would the hearings be during the day or would they be in the evening?
It seems like evening is best to get
Yeah, I think so.
people working the day and whatnot.
Yes.
I agree.
All right.
And for public access as well.
Yes.
Even though you're having the middle of vacation season, but
I mean, I do think we're going to have these hearings in August, but I mean, that's just the way it is. But so why don't we, after this meeting, even Noreen can work with you and me, and we can work with the committee and we can figure out a location and a time.
There has to be two, so, I assume that you folks also have suggestions for a venue for, for the first hearing, and maybe there might be three if somebody else steps up and say, I'd like a hearing in my neighborhood. We have to vote on that, I guess, and decide, but
My proclivity will be to keep it tight,
Yeah.
to keep it to the required public hearings,
Mhm.
and to move the process, because remember, if we don't act, it's a negative.
Yeah, I just didn't want to disenfranchise anybody.
I think
wanted
2
to
public
step up
hearings in
ahead.
an 8-week period is more than enough opportunity.
Right.
And if you want to have the second public hearing in early September, we can do that too, to accommodate people who are
Yeah.
back from vacation, kids going to school and the like.
Yeah.
You know, we can do that too.
And geographically dispersed. and
Mhm.
so that we
Sure.
have that
Sure.
My only issue is I've got 2 out-of-state trips in September, and maybe other folks have things too, but I mean, we can work around those, I'm sure, but.
I mean, yeah, listen, we're going to work together as
Yeah.
this committee, you know, is going to be terrific. So I think we can accommodate everyone somehow, some way. And
So-
the community, most importantly.
I mean, so maybe one hearing would be in the neighborhood, in one of those venues we just discussed.
Mhm.
We can work on that. And then the other hearing could be in the auditorium here or the Will Library auditorium. I mean,
Sure.
they're both central to the rest of the city, and they've got parking. There really is parking here. You've got to go to the garage. but it's a lot. Will Library has parking right at the library,
Yeah.
so that's actually might be.
Okay.
You don't have to go in a garage.
It's not central, so maybe we'll aim for that, you know.
Will Library, I think, is a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Free parking.
Yeah, parking's right there.
It's easy parking. It's right there.
It's
You
right
walk
Central
up.
Avenue.
There's no confusion. You're not going in an elevator. It's right there.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
I
so
think
let's
that's-
aim for Will Library and, you know.
Great.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's
And
both
then-
of them on the east side.
And then, so the next step is to get a date for MGM to come in. That meeting could be here, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I'm
Oh, yeah.
speaking on behalf of
Yeah.
Jesse, who helped us, but yeah, I think
So let's-
definitely, yeah.
So, I mean, should we ask Noreen to work with MGM on a date for early August?
Sure, yeah.
You know.
As well as your availability, but we
Yeah.
can, yeah, kind of
All right, good.
figure out all of those
Okay.
afterwards. All right. Any other items to present for consideration? Yes.
If the meeting in the immediate community, central to Empire City is going to be later, if that would be the second one.
Sure.
In September, whenever we decide. That would be helpful to me because it would take me a while to organize a meeting and publicize it and,
Sure, okay.
get everybody,
Larry's got to get his troops in order.
Well, people say, oh, I didn't know.
I understand.
Well, that begs one other quick question in the interest of time, and that is, how are we going to publicly notice these meetings? What vehicles will we be using? What vehicles are we required to use? And how will that happen? I would imagine that's something your firm would.
Yes, so the
Involved with.
Gaming Facility Location Board will issue the notices publicly. Timing wise, if we have dates, locations, venues set, they can, go out whenever we're ready for them to go out. If you let me know the languages you want them in, we can have that ready and available. It is on their website, which is public, and also sent out through their listserv. Any other promotion is up to us and what you think would be the best way for your communities to get that word out.
Well, we're not given a budget, I assume. So,
Well, as you know, we can work with the mayor's communications office. I mean, I'm sure if you say to them, throw this on they've got a very robust outreach
absolutely.
system for everything, and we can just ask them to
Sure.
fold this into that.
Add it to their
That
newsletter,
is that. Well, that's a great idea, but is it in any way any conflict?
Well, no, it'd just be,
Is it considered an advocacy, or is it considered an information? I'm just thinking aloud.
That's a great question because the Hyatt Association notices, sometimes I don't write them, they're written by, other members. They do sort of express a point of view, so.
Yeah, I think any
Well, I think
notices
we'd
that
just be
would
asking
come
the
from
city-
us should
city
be
to-
generic
I think we'd just be asking the city to take our notice
and just send
and
it.
put it in their email
Newsletter
blast,
or
because
whatever.
if you, I mean, people
That's
have,
the way it's done. It's been done.
yeah, I mean, they have a weekly
Okay.
email blast.
So as long as it's generated from us and conveyed through that vehicle, I think.
Yeah.
I'd be
Yeah.
comfortable.
With no other color to it, other
Correct.
than this is, yeah,
Right.
I mean, basically,
No editing.
correct.
right, I mean, community organizations submit stuff to the mayor's office all the time. Say, just put this in your weekly feed
Sure.
when it goes out to their.
Yeah, I think if it goes out in that way, I think we're
No, it
fine.
doesn't.
But that doesn't preclude, other.
No, that's right.
Making their own notices.
Listen, we want a robust,
Yeah, because there are community groups that
Right.
do that,
and is there a statutory requirement for a notice? 10 days, 5 days, what is it?
The notice and agenda, sorry, what,
No, go ahead.
it's 72
72
hours?
hours,
Yeah,
72 hours.
yeah, but,
But we will do our best to get it out.
right,
for that.
it's
Well, that gives them a
really,
ton of time.
right, so, those, if
Yeah.
we can get out as early as
Yep.
possible,
As soon
but
as we have locations
yeah.
and dates and times confirmed,
we can,
get the
they
notice
can
out.
go out,
So,
yeah.
I mean, so maybe if you can set up a meeting with MGM in the
Mhm.
next week or so, when we convene for that meeting, we can come to that meeting with some dates in our head as to when we think the first public hearing ought to be. And we could at least set the first public hearing, and then we'll get to the second one when we get to it. But at least we got the first one rolling.
Well, it might be helpful to also just give her the blackout dates, like the dates we're not
Sure, that
available
would be
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah.
throughout the summer, so this way
Sooner rather than later, this
Yeah.
way she can,
Right.
Yeah,
she has sense.
and you can
Yeah.
look at the availability of venues.
that sounds good.
Makes sense.
All right.
Progress.
So hearing no other items for consideration,
Motion we adjourn.
Second.
All right, this meeting of the Community Advisory Committee for MGM Empire City is hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.